Hello everyone, here is another rookie tutorial, and this time it is a tactical one. I am going to talk about this guy. This one is my scratch build artillery observer. He has some binoculars and an SMG, and I'll quite often field him alongside a helping buddy with a radio to call in where the artillery strike comes, also with an SMG. Now, playing British, I have fielded this guy plenty of times. You have to field like at least one, right? Because he's free. But sometimes you'll see competitive lists that field more than one. Simply buy one extra, which can be quite devastating. So I want to talk about how to use him, how to field him, why, and maybe also a bit about the tactics of how to place his artillery strike. So let me start with how to field him. Most of the time I'll field him as a single model without his helper because he's free, so he costs 0 points, and I'll field the helper if I have 10 points left over in my list, making him, as soon as he has placed his artillery strike, a bit more useful. I'll always field him with an SMG, simply because the SMG gives him extra shots, making him that much more useful, making him that much more of a threat. He will be able to put pins on stuff easier if I have those extra shots. So that's why I do that. Placement. Now, when I go to a table, I will often place him like this. Imagine this is my deployment zone, right? I'll place him just outside my deployment zone, behind total line of sight blocking cover, a forest in this case. Why? Because if the enemy has snipers, I do not want my forward artillery observer getting sniped. And placing him behind total line of sight blocking cover, the sniper will usually not be able to pie slice enough so that he can cover both edges of this cover. So I can use this so that when I know where his sniper is placed, first turn I can move my observer to the side where I want him to see and where he cannot be shot by the sniper, pie slicing just enough so that the sniper cannot see him. Right? That's what I'll do. And I'll place him quite a bit behind the center line so that the sniper won't get side lines down to him. So I'll make sure that he's quite safe. There's no reason to put him at risk. You will want that artillery strike to come down at some point. So don't put him at risk. Don't place him where he can be spotted by a sniper in the first round. That's just not good. I'll even sometimes, if there's no preparatory bombardment, I'll even place him in my own deployment zone. Again, behind total cover, if that is where I can get my cover, right? And also if there's some good line of sights that he can where I can see that this is going to be good for the artillery strike later on. Now, how to do the next bit. Most of the time I will make sure that he is a bit inconspicuous, that my opponent doesn't really notice him. I'll not make a fuss out of him in any sort of way unless I want my opponent to be frightened of him. So most of the time I'll just make sure that he gets the dice very late in the turn. If he needs to move out, he moves out to the where he can sort of see where he's going to place the artillery strike later on, and then just go down with him, not doing anything, and then later, at the end of a turn, maybe turn 3, I often do it in turn 3. I'll suddenly make a fuss about him and say, "Oh, here comes the artillery strike," because I want the opponent to be scared of what's going to happen next. That fear will help me when I start using the artillery strike for something. So I want the opponent to notice, and I want him to be afraid. Which is also why when I'm placing my artillery strike, I always place this very bright yellow little dot, and make a big fuss out of placing it, because I want the opponent to notice that something is going to happen. And this doesn't matter if I'm using it offensive or defensive. I always want him to notice very clearly that I'm doing this. And that's because the artillery strike doesn't always come down, right? It comes down on a 4+. So I want the opponent to be afraid of it, even though it might not come down. So I want him to react to it. That's why I'm making a fuss about placing it. So there are, in my view, 4 different reasons and 4 different tactics for how you place that artillery strike. You can place it as an area denial strike, where you place it down and make sure that the opponent doesn't move into that area, because they'll be reluctant to move into it. They might think that it'll come down and they might get pinned, they might even lose a unit, so why move in there? It's a risk, right? So you can deny an area to the opponent, which can be good, especially if there's objectives there or something that you want the opponent to move away from. That is a way to do it. And you can do that at the start of a turn instead of at the end of a turn, where you want the opponent to be maybe lumped up in an area and you want to shoot that area with your artillery. If you do it at the start of a turn, that opponent will move away from the artillery strike, so you can clear an area. That's quite effective. Maybe not the best way to use the artillery strike, but it does work. And if it doesn't come down, you can simply push the artillery strike closer to the opponent, again making him move away. The other thing that you can do is you can use it defensively. If you have a base, maybe an artillery base or something, and you can see that the opponent is moving up troops to attack you, try placing the artillery strike on the attacking force. If it does come down, it will most likely pin some of his force. Maybe not all of it, but if some of it is pinned, his attack will falter. He might be able to use 1 or 2 units instead of 4 units at once, which makes it way easier for you to defend. So you can use it to stagger his assault, which will most likely mean that the assault will fail and you will win your defense. That's a good trick, and you have to use that at the end of a turn when you can see that his assaulters, his attacking force has moved up. Maybe he's moved up some armored cars or a tank and some trucks with flamethrowers or SMGs or what have you, and you can simply pin that down, some of it, by using this artillery strike. But it's a 50-50 shot. So what I like to do is, when I play my Brits and I want to go on the offense, then turn 2 or 3, I will place the artillery strike where I want to attack. Then I will move my assaulters up at a range of around 12 inches, maybe a little bit more, 13.5. And see if it comes down. If it comes down, his force, his defending force, will be pinned out. So I can move up, shoot them, and then assault, or what I need to do, right? So I often use it as a means to find a place where I want to charge, where I want to assault, where I want to push up. If it doesn't come down, he will still have to take notice of it, especially since I'm making a huge fuss out of rolling that die, and so he'll move instead of going into ambush and shooting or whatever, which means I can move up again. So and if it doesn't come down, I can just push it a bit further away so I can move up a bit more. So that's how you use it offensively. So defense, offense, and area denial. That is what it's really good for. Can you expect it to kill stuff? No, definitely not. Most of my games, it doesn't kill anything. Maybe it pins out a few units, but most games it misses, or it doesn't come down, or it doesn't do anything very much. But when it does, when I use it for that, it does have a tactical effect every single time. One final thing. Remember that your observer can see into area terrain, so you can place it at the edge of an area terrain. You don't have to use it on an enemy unit. You can place it at a point. You can also pie slice so much that it can actually hit something that's behind area terrain. That's always good. That's it. Cheers. Bye.